legal action that may result from the program.
I feel a tingle in my spine. You're intentional about it when you whine. Wine. Let me let you know a secret. And your trouble in my pee. I go let you know your sign. Is it Virgo, Capricorn, or Gemini? Can't lie. I wanna put you on my shoulder. All I need you so bad. Stuck on you. Only your face I did look. Only your beats make I move. As it don't hang from my hook, it can never go nowhere. And you go shit and do. They want to bust my balloon, but everything I you value must give me joy inside. Sorry, mama, you know, see the time, no D. I'ma see you go be taking over me like you are calling. Oh, be on this day, and you're for my kinky. Keep whining over me, leave it drink, why no sink it. Don't boss, not to me love a boy, double D, but I go, suggestion for but I go, don't believe you go, pick up and go, my fatness in the pot, give you a dinner brush. Cause I love you, and I need you, and I am stuck on you. Only your face I delude, only your beats make I move. As it don't hang from my hook, it can never go nowhere. And you go shit I know. They want to bust my balloon, but everything I you value must give me joy inside. Sorry, mama, you know say the time no D. I'ma see you go be taking over me like you are calling. Oh, be on this day, baby, I'm leaning for my kinky. Keep whining over me, leave it free, why no sink it.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of City Talks with Ruben Abati on your number one lifestyle station, City 1051 FM. On this show, we discuss current political and human interest stories that impact us as Nigerians and as members of a global human community. Today, we're discussing a topic that is on everyone's mind, which is the ongoing fuel price hikes in Nigeria, the economic impact, and how citizens are coping. We also take a deep dive into the historical context of fuel scarcity and price hikes, and most importantly, we'll be taking possible solutions on how to bring to an end this recurring pattern of fuel price hikes. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest for today's discussion. His name is Majid Dahiru. Majid Dahiru is a newspaper columnist and energy security advocate. Let's jump right into it. Fuel price hikes in Nigeria have been a recurring problem for decades. Certainly, Nigeria's fuel price hikes are largely driven by a combination of factors. First, we have the issue of fuel subsidies. For years, the government has used subsidies to keep fuel prices artificially low. However, the cost of maintaining these subsidies became unsustainable, especially with fluctuating global oil prices. This led to the removal of subsidies. But with the subsidy removal, the return of long fuel queues, fuel scarcity, and constant increment in price have continued, which we thought we had left behind. Here we are in 2024, with fuel being sold for 855 naira to 897 naira at NNPC fuel stations, and as high as 1,100 and 1,300 at some private fuel stations, depending on where you are. Secondly, Nigeria, despite being a major oil producer, imports the majority of its refined petroleum. Our refineries have been operating below capacity for years due to poor maintenance and mismanagement. This reliance on imports makes us vulnerable to global oil price changes and leading to frequent hikes and scarcity. Well, let's hope that the Dangote refinery will bring respite to Nigerians on fuel price hike and scarcity. Now, with these price hikes, it's not just the cost of fuel that is increasing. We're seeing the ripple effects across various sectors. Transportation sectors have nearly doubled. Small businesses are struggling with higher operating costs, and our inflation is well over 30%. Let's get our guest to give us some context on why Nigeria has been facing these recurring fuel price hikes and scarcity for so long. To join us in this conversation, you can call us at 0700 1051 1051. WhatsApp at 0909 916 4403, or reach out to us via social media accounts at City1051 on Zoom, Instagram, and Facebook. Welcome, Majid Dahiru, for joining us. Thank you very much indeed. Hello, Majid. Can you hear me? Hello, Majid Dahiru. Please, can you unmute Majid Dahiru, please? Majid Dahiru, I see you on the screen, but it's like you are muted. Hello, Majid Dahiru.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Well,
thank you very much, Dr. Ruben.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me on today's show. Well, we'd like you to shed some light on why Nigeria has been facing this recurring fuel price hikes and scarcity for so long. And even now, we're being told by President Tinubu that the country, Nigerians just have to make the sacrifice, and that the decision taken by the federal government, by the Tinubu administration, to remove fuel subsidy is inevitable.
Okay, Doctor, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so the issues are quite complicated. You talked about mismanagement. You talked about the unsustainability of fuel subsidy regime payment. You talked about underinvestment in the oil and gas sector by the Nigerian state and its partners. It's a lot of issues. And this boils down to one thing. Nigeria suffers from energy insecurity, or to put it mildly, energy poverty. And what you see by way of scarcity and increase in prices intermittently is simply the symptoms of a country that is stricken by energy poverty or energy insecurity. I say this because fundamentally, energy security is supposed to be a priority of every nation state because it's an integral part of national security. And if you look at the basic definition of energy security, which entails the availability, the accessibility, as well as the affordability of energy products and services, you would agree with me that the managers of the Nigerian state may have mismanaged the energy security aspect of the national security of this country. And so that's what we are suffering from as it is today. Now, let me lay this quite bare. And I must say that we intend to have a solution-based conversation. And so we need to, rethink and redefine certain concepts that have guided the political economy of Nigeria for a very long time. And that's what has landed us in this mess that we are in today. First and foremost, energy management in any jurisdiction over the world is essentially a state affair. That is, it's a core responsibility of government. And I've always maintained that the price of energy should not and cannot be dictated by market forces alone because of the primacy of energy to every economy. You see, what air is to the living organism is what energy is to an economy. Whereas a human being can survive for a number of days without food, I doubt if any human being can survive for a few hours without air. And so an economy can survive with energy. It may not grow. You may need other incentives and policies and programs to grow an economy. But for an economy to be alive at all, to stay alive, such an economy must be powered by accessible, available, and affordable energy. But unfortunately, in all of our permutations, punditry, in all of our policy postulations in Nigeria, we seem to have completely abdicated or overlooked that affordability component of energy security. And so when people chorused over the years to remove subsidy, that it was unsustainable. So before I've argued that, no, there's nothing wrong with subsidizing energy because the affordability component of energy security entails that subsidy as an intervention to lower price of energy below affordability threshold of citizens of any jurisdiction is a permanent feature in energy security. So what we should have done ordinarily was to first accept this reality and then manage our energy security system efficiently, without wastages, without corruption, without any of the issues that have made it unsustainable. Because what is even more unsustainable is a high cost of energy that is above the affordability threshold of the citizens of any jurisdiction. As we have seen between May 29, 2023, when subsidy was declared gone, and today, we've seen the crisis, we've seen the economic issue that
Majid,
we've seen the problems we have been facing.
Majid, if you can,
unfortunately,
if you can hear me,
hello?
I get your argument about energy security and affordability for citizens. But the Nigerian government says that, look, the kind of system we were operating before, the people benefiting from the subsidy regime were middlemen, were owners of depots. So there were all kinds of people, collecting rent from Nigeria. And then there was the problem of smuggling across the border. And that the best way to address this problem is to allow market forces to determine the price of PMS. You recall that diesel is deregulated, kerosene is deregulated. The corruption at the downstream sector, we were told, was enabled because, it had not yet been deregulated. It's not been deregulated even now. But Section 205 of the Petroleum Industry Act says that market forces should determine the prices. So the federal government says we can't be spending, so much money on an annual basis, money that should be spent for development on subsidy. And hence, this fuel price has to go up now, with the government saying the subsidy regime is unbearable. I would like you to address that if you had me. Hello? Hello, Majid? No, please, you are muted again. Please unmute your phone. Please unmute your system. I see you are muted at this end.
Okay, I'm unmuted now.
I can
you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. So I heard all of the things you said, and these are the regular arguments that have been put forward over time, without also understanding the cost of not paying subsidy will be higher on the economy than when subsidies are being paid. Again, the events of the last 1 year has proven that. That's why we're having this conversation 15 months after that declaration was made that subsidy was wrong. Now, if you look at the issues, it was not actually exactly true that subsidy wasn't benefiting the common man. If it was not benefiting the common man, the hunger in the land today, occasioned by subsidy removal, and the economic dislocation it has caused will not be there. So it actually benefited everybody who got one price of petrol at a price that was below their affordability threshold. Secondly, they talked about corruption. Again, I've said it severally. It is a key responsibility of government to tackle corruption anywhere it is found in the system. It's a key responsibility of government. You cannot, on account of corruption, throw the baby and the bathwater away. It's your responsibility as government to fight corruption. It's your responsibility as a government to fight smuggling. It's your responsibility as a government to ensure energy security in the process. And this is a global standard. I do not know of any country in developed hemisphere where energy is traded according to the dictates of market forces. I do not think so. I said this because even the United States of America do not trade energy entirely on the dictates of market forces. In July, just before the national holiday, the White House issued a press statement about the effort that the Biden administration was making to lower the cost of energy at the pump for citizens going into the summer. And it said in that direction, amongst many other measures that have been taken, that the White House has ordered the release of 1 million barrels of gasoline from the strategic petroleum reserves into the market to lower the prices. This clearly tells you that even in the headquarters of capitalism, energy is not traded according to the dictates of market forces. Because energy is so fundamental that the same way that air is given to human beings for free, the gods on earth, which is the government of every country, strives to ensure that energy should not go beyond certain levels because it will disrupt the economy. So contrary to the narrative that was entrenched out there, subsidy on energy was actually an investment in productivity. Again, the events of last 1 year have shown clearly that an economy that does not enjoy affordable energy cannot be productive. It will be tanked. It will create social unrest arising from poverty and hunger. And to add to the issues, unlike in the US, for example, or in the UK and some other jurisdictions, where food is not also, the price of food is not dictated by market forces in the US. It's not dictated by market forces in the UK. In Nigeria, food prices are dictated by market forces entirely. So if you add a freely traded commodity such as energy to that of food, that is the recipe you are having today as hunger, mass and mass starvation. Because government has a responsibility to also secure not just energy but food. In Nigeria, government has abdicated these two responsibilities. I understand the unsustainability argument because what has happened is that NNPC has been given the burden to carry, which ordinarily shouldn't be its responsibility. So NNPC was given the green light to kind of subsidize the recovery because even government realized that all of the promises of competition and free market uhuru didn't happen. And so prices kept rising while we still remain the 30,000 naira minimum wage a month country. And so NNPC had to intervene through under recovery. But NNPC is not the state. NNPC is just an entity. It is now telling on their financial books. And so NNPC itself is distressed, carrying the burden of the country. Because the responsibility for energy security is not NNPC's own. It is that of the state, the federal government, the state government, led by the president and commander-in-chief. And I'm saying that we won't be out of this conversation for a long time until we reassess our understanding and appreciation of the fact that you need affordable energy to boost an economy, to keep it alive, to grow it, and to make it productive.
Majid.
Otherwise, Nigeria will not be able to compete with other countries for global resources through export competitiveness and international trade.
Okay, Majid.
You talked about diesel being deregulated.
Yes.
Something that escapes the mind of many people is this. Part of the reason why your industries are not productive, are not competitive with China, India, and the European Union is because of the high cost of energy i.e. diesel, that powers our industry. For example, sir, China expended as much as $132 billion to subsidize all range of energy products and services by the end of 2022. That is the reason why you can produce a pair of shoes in area market in China and ship it down to Nigeria, and it will be cheaper than the one that was made in area market. So we have to understand that energy security is a form of investment in productivity. We have to have that understanding and get government to expand its own revenue base by becoming more productive in its own self.
Okay, let me ask you. It's good you brought NNPCL into the conversation. NNPC Limited is the breadwinner of the Nigerian economy. So if you are saying the federal government, nobody should blame NNPC Limited, but the federal government should take the responsibility. NNPC Limited is owing, is having debt obligations to traders in terms of finished products to the tune of 6.8, is it trillion naira or whatever. The Nigerian government itself is dependent on NNPC Limited. So we have a catch-22 situation, it seems to me. Then you have Dangote Refinery.
Yes.
Dangote Refinery, 650,000 barrels of finished product capacity. At the moment, is operating at about 40 to 60% capacity. He says if it gets crude, as required, that refinery can operate at 80%, 90% capacity. Now, everyone is depending on Dangote Refinery. We are told that both the federal government and Dangote Refinery have not agreed on pricing. If market forces kick in, then of course we're back to the same situation. And NNPC Limited just issued a release today saying that they are not the monopoly of taker from Dangote Refinery. That anybody who wants to buy fuel, any marketer, local marketer or trader, should go directly to Dangote Refinery. Okay. So if Dangote Refinery says, we want to sell, at 1,150 or 130 naira, above 1,000 naira, it means that the fuel price before December we go up to 2,000 naira per liter.
Yes.
So what do you recommend?
So that is why, for example, the point I've been trying to make is this. Dangote, Nigerians, I said about Dangote, the profit of Dangote coming on stream and relieving us of importation of petrol and probably getting us some reprieve in pricing. But in a system that is strictly oriented and, configured to international market forces, to the extent that Dangote has to buy crude in dollars in Nigeria, which is giving some concessions to buy in naira, to the extent that marketers need to buy products from Dangote in dollars. Most people may not know this. To buy products from Dangote, you need to pay your LC in dollars as well. It's not traded in naira. So everything is internationalized. Such a system cannot bring about that much net reprieve in pricing, even if you substitute importation with what is coming out from the local refineries. And for me, that is fundamentally a flawed economic or energy security management system. I do not know of any country that is endowed with hydrocarbons that operates such a system. I do not know of any. And so, what I'm advocating is NNPC is simply operating within a system within the PIA. And so, it is committed to free market enterprise. It has said so clearly. Now, the burden of subsidy ordinarily shouldn't be on the NNPC. It should be on the states. It should be on the federal government. As was the case in the past, when the federal government made budgetary provisions for subsidy outside of NNPC's under recovery through his own expenditure. But unfortunately, there was a shift, and NNPC started to bear this body. And so it has started to say, we can no longer do this because it is telling negatively on the books. And so they have decided to say, we are also going to adjust our prices to reflect market forces. That is a company acting according to the law that has established it. But I'm saying that Nigerians will not get succumbed, and the price of energy will keep rising. You see, that's the nature of energy. The prices will keep rising because, one, You are using forex to buy crude, even in Nigeria, by Nigerian refineries. We are also selling products to off-takers in forex. So there will always be a race for forex, which you continuously sell the dollar downhill against the dollar, for example. So that differential alone will keep price of energy perpetually rising. And I'm saying, at what point will Nigerians have enough? That's why government must always intervene when it comes to energy. Energy is not like telecommunications. Energy is not like any other sector of the economy that market forces can be left to decide its pricing mechanisms. Energy is special. Energy is the air that the economy breathes. Governments all over the world have a consensus effort to make sure that energy prices are lowered.
Okay.
And that is why when you see the price of crude rising in the international market, America will activate energy diplomacy with its Middle Eastern partners to bring down the prices.
Okay, Majid.
And when they are not yielding, they go to their strategic production reserve to release product at less than market price.
Majid, I've heard you, but
yes,
in one sense, you are saying that President Tinubu's decision to withdraw fuel subsidy is wrong. But
very, very, very wrong.
No, just wait. Are you saying that Section 205 of the Petroleum Industry Act would have to be amended to allow the Tinubu administration to provide subsidy as a matter of law within the downstream sector? And
I actually faulted that section of the PIA that prevented subsidy payments, because those who drafted the PIA should have known that affordability component of energy security and subsidy must be in place to be activated whenever the forces of the market raises price of energy above affordability threshold of any country. It was not supposed to be there in the first place. Subsidy should be a matter of policy, not necessarily law. It's a given that government must have a policy in place to activate mechanisms to lower the price of energy, either through subsidy, tax cut, waivers, whatever means possible for end users. Once it's going far above their affordability, it will distort the economy and create more crises than palliatives cannot resolve.
Okay,
and there's no substitute anywhere in the world for energy security.
Okay, Majid, do you think if the refineries were working at, say, optimal capacity, the situation in Nigeria at the moment will have been different? We will not all probably be looking up to Dangote refinery. There will be a Kaduna refinery working, Port Harcourt refinery working, Kaduna refinery working. What do you think this will have been different? Because the Nigerian Labour Congress keeps saying, get the refineries to work.
Yes, because it is easier to subsidize locally refined products, even from the production side, than importation, free importation. So what will happen is this: if government is able to fix its own refinery and is able to manage and absorb the necessary costs it needs to manage as a government, as a responsibility to citizens, people like Dangote and other refiners that are privately owned will export their products. There is no conflict there. They will export their products. The government is not willing to also subsidize them. But my worry is we had, over the past years, denounced the concept of subsidy, demonized it to the point where it's now looking like an economic vice. Whereas it is one of the most potent economic vectors all over the world to keep an economy afloat. I understand that right now, Nigeria may not be in the position to subsidize as much as some of us would want because of the problems inherited from the past administration. I understand that a lot of crude oil forward sales you are entering into as an arrangement to collect loans from some, international finance agencies and all of that, which has impeded the NMPC at itself from living up to its full potential as the breadwinner of the Nigerian state. We understand this. What I'm advocating for is a paradigm in thinking to say, look, we must confront this problem of providing affordable energy for our citizens. And what are the ways to do it? But again, this is not a responsibility for the NMPC. It is that of the federal government. Because NMPC's plight was when the government couldn't secure its own borders to prevent smuggling. So NMPC imports petrol for Nigeria. It ends up in the neighboring country because the government cannot secure its own borders. to make sure that at least it was manageable in terms of the quantity we consume. So these are some of the issues. However, we need to have a rethinking of this whole enterprise because price of energy will keep rising. It will not come down. And that is why governments all over the world have mechanisms in place to check these prices. And it's not just petrol. I'm talking about petrol because, Dr. Abati, petrol is Nigeria's most utilized energy product. It powers the bulk of our SMEs that dominate our economies. It powers our logistics for businesses. It powers our homes. It powers our business premises. And so any marginal increase in the price of this product will send price of goods and services through the roof. That is the inflation rate you are seeing in Nigeria consistently since this one came into power on May 29, 2023, when it was subsidy unilaterally.
Okay, Majid, let me ask you.
We cannot pass on this problem without addressing it and facing it headlong as a responsible nation.
Okay, let me ask you about the impact on, citizens. Lagos, in the last few days, there has been no traffic. You can drive all over the place because a lot of people cannot afford to buy fuel for 1,100 naira per liter. National Association of Nigerian Students is threatening to call up their members on strike on September 15. We have the October 1 date coming. People saying, look, they will go out because this is still a sign of poor governance. Nigerian Labour Congress is saying that government has betrayed them, that when the negotiations on new national minimum wage was ongoing, they were told, well, take 70,000 naira instead of 250,000 naira because we will not, touch fuel price. And now this has happened, NLC feels that it has been betrayed. Can you help us reflect on what could be the immediate implications in terms of stability and, relationship with government?
Mass hunger leading to social unrest is imminent. If Nigerians protested when petrol was 700 naira a litre, you can imagine what they would do when the price is 1,000 or above. So it's a serious problem. And that is why, going back to the issues of energy that are raised, policymakers globally know that when you have such a situation, it will lead to social unrest. It will lead to mass poverty, mass frustration. And that is why government must always intervene to prevent this scenario. Because it will cost the government more to actually bring this under control when it escalates. It is common economic sense. And that is why to prevent this situation we are looking at already, government must put on the stick cap and review the policy decisions it's been taking and the economics behind it. You see, this so-called textbook economics, it does not work anywhere in the world. People study it, but in the practical sense, common economic sense is usually applied to solve simple problems such as this. So you are going to see a serious social upheaval in the coming days. And let me tell you this, Nigeria is not grappling with cost of living crisis. That's we putting it very mildly. Nigerians are grappling with cost of existence crisis because what is at stake is hunger, unaffordability of food. When the people of UK complained of cost of living crisis, they didn't complain of hunger. There was no hunger in the UK. They complained of cost of energy. They complained of cost of, ancillary issues, but not food. Even that, it led to the fall of one government after the other, and the government had to impose an energy price cap to offset some of the cost, the burden on the citizens in terms of price of electricity and gas. That is a form of subsidy. I am saying, sir, that what is at stake is hunger because food in Nigeria is traded at market rate, or like in other jurisdictions where food is subsidized. And you also now trading energy that powers food production at market rate. It is double jeopardy that will be a recipe for social upheaval arising from mass hunger. These are the social issues we need to address, and our policymakers don't seem to be looking at it. Now, Dangote is a privately owned refinery, and I think you should stop politicizing the pricing mechanism of his facility. Let him come out and say the price of his production or the price of his product, and sell to the willing buyers as a willing seller that he's going to be. Let us put that behind us, so that we can start having a conversation now that Dangote's price, the double sugar, What does government now need to do in this instance? Because for a country of 30,000 naira minimum wage a month, Dr. Bati, 1,000 naira liter price of petroleum is far above our affordability threshold. It is not sustainable. So government has a responsibility here. We may not get an immediate reprieve, but we have to agree as a country, we have to build a consensus around the need for government responsibility towards the citizens in energy security. I say this because when as citizens, we surrendered our legitimacy to the state, it was in exchange for welfare and security. Part of that security is also energy security. It is food security. It is educational security. It is health security. It is financial security. And all of these securities rest on energy security. Even the fiscal security, through kinetic means of security state, rest on energy security. You need petrol to power your patrol vehicles. You need the aviation fuel to fly your fighter jet. If the cost goes beyond the reasonable threshold, even the government will have difficulty in financing its own activities. This is the double jeopardy that we are all faced with now.
Okay.
So it's a problem we must confront.
Okay.
We need new changes.
Okay, Majid, we'll go on a short break, but before we do so, and then allow people to call in and then ask you questions and express possibly other views of the subject. I noticed that you are inside your car there. I just told you that, many of the streets in Lagos here are empty, relatively, because people can't afford to buy fuel. So people are adjusting their lifestyles. But you don't seem to have a problem buying fuel at whatever price it is sold where you are. So which means some people can cope.
No, nobody can cope. There's no power in my house. I have to come into the car to actually, attend to this very important event.
Okay, on that note, let's take a short commercial break. Remember, if you want to be part of this conversation, you can join us by calling 0700-1051-1051. You can send us messages at WhatsApp 0909 916 4403, and you can engage with us via social media accounts at City 1051 on Zoom, Instagram, and Facebook. We take this short break and then we come right back. Majid Dahiru, the energy security analyst, newspaper columnist, public affairs commentator, is with us. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Most of the contracts in NDDC are given out to members of National Assembly, but you don't know about it. It's okay.
When you need unbiased information, balanced analysis, reviews, and insight on the policies and programs that concern you, listen to City Talks with Ruben Abati. Be a part of it. Call 0700 1051 1051 to lend your voice on topics and help shape our country for the better.
My name is Ruben Abati. I will be your host on City Talks from noon to 1 p.m. every Saturday. Join me as we dissect major issues of public interest. You will be glad you did.
City Talks with Ruben Abati on your number one lifestyle station, City 1051. From noon to 1 p.m. every Saturday.
Okay, welcome back from that commercial break. For those of you who just tuning in, we've been discussing Nigeria's fuel price hikes, fuel scarcity, and the people's agony with our guest, Majid Dahiru. And we've been looking at how, this development, this reality, affects our lives. Majid Dahiru calls it a cost of existence crisis. This is not just about living. It's our very existence that is threatened. Well, we'll take calls now. We'll take comments. And Majid Dahiru is here to react to some of the interventions. Now, first I have Comrade Engineer Agony Odafe Emmanuel. He says fuel subsidy is the biggest fraud in Nigeria that must never be allowed back. It is gone forever, and for the good of Nigerians. An end to fuel subsidy is not the reason for the unjustified hikes in pump prices. President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda is dead on arrival as long as the PIA and the NMPCL, NUPRC, and NMDPRA exist and the acts are not repealed. Permit me to restate again that the PIA 2021 remains the worst anti-Nigerian act or law ever made by the National Assembly in collaboration with the President of Nigeria, Comrade Engineer Agony Odafe Emmanuel, listening to us all the way from Warri, Delta State. Well, we have other reactions here on the screen. Is there someone on the line? Okay, this is... hello? Hello? Okay, we lost that caller. This is also from Bola Ogunlolu. He says, no, Doc, it is careless of any government to put the populace in poverty as a result of its failure to control the cabals and smugglers, which ought to be in the absolute control of government. Unfortunately, truth is very scarce in Nigeria. The subsidy has been consistently paid. We must be sincere to move the nation forward. The windfall from subsidy cannot and will not meet the palliative for the masses. So, so government must return the fuel price to what it was as of 29 May 2023. After all, what is the government giving the people? No amount of palliative or salary increase can bring the current inflation down unless we return to the basics. Then we have Mr. Marcel Okeke. Okay, let me get that. Okay, Marcel Okeke says, okay, before I take Chief Marcel Okeke, looks like we have a caller on the line. Yes, please. Your name, your location.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, this is Madam Lucky from Ibejuloki.
Madam Lucky from Ibejuloki.
Yes, from Ibejuloki. I want, first of all, let me say this. This is an election that was contested, and the margin between the winner and the loser was very, very small. And even today, not all Nigerians believe that this president won, but we know that he won the election. Now, I want the guests to respond. If indeed that there is this president that is going on, is it not a political gamble that is going in knowing that he will face the people again in 2027? So thank you very much.
Okay. Well, Majid Dairo, we have so many interventions. Maybe I'll leave you to just respond to some of these three interventions first, and then we continue from there.
Okay, I mean, again, you can see that there's a consensus of opinion that government needs to do something. You see, government has to take up its responsibilities. My brother Agony Odafe said subsidy was a fraud. You see, we cannot, because subsidy was fraud, whatever that means, now absolve government of that key responsibility of that intervention that is required to maintain price of energy below affordability threshold. I want to underline this terminology, affordability threshold. You see, inflation is an enemy of any economy, and every government tries to keep down inflation. And one way to do it is to maintain energy costs at a lower level. And so to do that, the invisible hands of government, not the market, must intervene through subsidy. It can come in various means. It can come through under recovery, it can come through direct payment. Subsidy is not a vice, it is a virtue. Now, we need to have this conversation because they just are conflicted. Because if you look at the last election, all three president candidates said they're going to remove subsidy. And so it became a national consensus. It did. But again, I was one of those who faulted all of the three positions of the respective aspirants to say no. You are abdicating a core responsibility that was given to you by the Constitution. And the economic common sense has shown that any marginal rise in the cost of energy disrupts the entire ecosystem. It does. And so the cost to government is even more than what we are paying as subsidy. So what we need to do now is for government to appropriate money for subsidy and relieve NNPC the burden. NNPC, again, ordinarily, it shouldn't even be the cash cow or the breadwinner of a country such as Nigeria. Government is supposed to have various streams of revenue and income outside of the NNPC. If only they're willing to make the necessary investment and diversify their source of foreign exchange, which they have not been able to do because of the ready cash coming from their accruals and rentals through the NMPC. So the NMPC has been overburdened, has been abused and overused. And because there is state-owned enterprises, there are things they cannot tell the public about what they are going through in the hands of the political masters. But some of us know. So we're saying we need to shift focus to the political masters of the Nigerian state, that they should do to Nigerians what other countries are doing all over the world. Look, during the 1973 Israeli Arab War that resulted into an oil embargo against the US, we shot price of crude oil from $3 to $12. It disrupted the American economy so much that America plotted to remove King Faisal of Saudi Arabia using the CIA and a coup plot. It was that serious for them. And as a lesson from that disruption and the high cost of energy that America suffered and its economy, the American government established a federal government-owned strategic petroleum reserve by 1975 to regulate, to control, and to use as an instrument of intervention in energy availability, accessibility, and affordability. This is the headquarters of the capitalist world. It is the same thing in Saudi Arabia. It is the same thing in the European Union. I don't know of any country where their most utilized energy products, be it electricity, be it gasoline, be it diesel, be it renewables, are left to the vagaries, to the ravages of free market enterprise. I don't think so. It's like God putting a price mark on the air we breathe as human beings. We will die.
Okay, Majid, let's take more interventions because I see we have generated quite some interest in this subject. Okay, this is Chief Marcel Okeke. He says, thank you, Mr. Dairo, for your very enlightening presentations. Thank you for denouncing fuel subsidy removal the way it was done. Shouldn't the government have gone after the fraudsters in the subsidy process rather than what it chose to do? Now we have Zik Zulu Okafo. He says, okay, wait a moment. I'm trying to read what he says. He says, good day, Dr. Abati. Please, I don't agree with Majid, not at all. Food deregulation is the way to go and will be the eventual solution. With Naira for crude purchase, with fuel marketers buying from the refineries in Naira, government should pass a policy. Where's that now? Okay, I'm trying to read from the screen. It says marketers should, government should pass a policy compelling the NEMASA and MPA to allow fuel marketers pay their charges in Naira. When all this happens, and with one or two government-owned refineries working, the price of fuel will go down inevitably under a level playing field and inspired competition. Majid is asking government to rewrite the PIA. It needs to appreciate the incisive minds and intellectual rigor that went into producing the PIA. Zik Zulu Okafo. Okay, before I come back to you, let's take this intervention by Comrade Issa Remu. Comrade Issa Remu is the Director General of the Michael Emodu Institute for Labor Studies and Relations in Ilorin, Kwara State. And of course, a board of trustees member of the Nigerian Labour Congress. If we could have Comrade Issa Remu, please join this conversation, please. Comrade?
Yeah, Ruben, how are you doing?
I'm good. Good afternoon. Yes.
I think all of us are comrades now at filling station. I think through you, let me extend my compliment to Majid, my very good brother. He's been doing very well with his intervention on promoting literacy about the petroleum pricing, And it reminds me, I did a book on crisis of petroleum pricing products in Nigeria, in which I tried to look at the engagement of labor with the government on the issue of incessant increase in petroleum pricing between 1988 to year 2000. And it's very interesting, when I was trying to revisit this publication, I think the arguments still remain the same. That we need to remove subsidy. We talk of appropriate pricing. You remember during Shonekan, it was appropriate pricing, without removal of subsidy. And the whole argument is that government faces challenges of revenue, and we need to find a way to, put an end to what we call subsidy. But as good as this is all about, the only thing I just want to say quickly, Majid, is that subsidy or no subsidy, but you also agree that we must have a reform. It cannot be business as usual. I think there is a consensus today that it should be something else for us to spend close to 6 trillion, 7 trillion to subsidize a product. I think we must agree. In fact, I don't even want to talk on reform alone. We need transformation. And to do so, we must go beyond discussion about pricing to the real fundamental issue of production, the entire value chain in the petroleum sector, exploration, refining, both especially in the downstream sector. And that now comes to the heart of the matter, development discourse. What we need is development, which is missing now. And I've said so, we need to build capacity for all stakeholders on how do we manage reform agenda, development for Nigeria. Reform is inevitable, but you must also make it gradual. You must make it consensual. We need to space reform. We signed on to United Nations 17 development goals. UN did not say the next 2 years, 3 years. There was a goal of 2030, in which we have to see how we can eradicate poverty, put an end to hunger. I think the same thing with the issue of moving from wholesale subsidy regime, to some level of liberalization. But I agree with you that there's no way in the world you have textbook approach to development. It's neither market or the state. We need the two together. Ruben, 1999 Constitution says the fundamental objective of state policy is to allow for balanced development. In fact, our constitution says mixed economy. So all I want to say quickly is that I think we should not waste this crisis that is facing us once again. We need to sit back together to make sure that we regain control of our petroleum sector and return to development agenda. I will end up on this note. I had an interaction with the late pioneer minister of power, Alhaji Maitama Sule, before he died, may so rest in peace. And he told us, what it took for Nigeria to set up the first refinery. The British never wanted it, because BP, Shell, they were all importing product from abroad. They said, no, our independence will not complete unless we are economic independent. So they started Port Harcourt Refinery 1. Then, like a child blade, they started second one. Later Warri, you have Kaduna Refinery. And by 1981, Nigeria was completely independent in producing petroleum products on the whole. I think we need to return back to that. Bring back refineries and support Dangote's refining effort of beneficiation, of creating jobs. But in doing so also, we must allow for some level of liberalization in that sector.
Comrade.
It cannot be as usual. Majid, you are speaking to me through I can see you. I think you're pedaling in your car. You couldn't have done that with Nitel. You couldn't have done that with Nitel in those days. Now you have your phone because there are alternatives. I think we should also open up the market. We need to have policies that will allow for that. It's the mix of both the state and the market policies.
Okay, comrade, thank you.
Above all, development should be the issue.
Thank you for joining us. I see someone has been trying to get across to us, calling repeatedly. If we could just allow that caller before I go back to our guest. Hello? 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 Okay. Looks like we lost that caller. Hello? Hello?
Hello, Dr. Abati.
Yes, ma'am. Hello? Yes, please go ahead.
This is Dr. Moses.
Dr. Moses, okay, good.
Yeah, I hardly agree with Majid. In fact, there is a particular institution that dedicates a part of their intro to his, opinion on subsidy removal.
it was inevitable since that PIA was signed into law that subsidy was gone. Tinubu only announced it. And so with this, I agree with the fact that subsidy has to go. It's not that government was doing anything wrong. The cabal running the country aground has to be checked. Don't tell me now, there were very few of them. The few people were so powerful. I believe strongly in the Pareto principle that a few people direct the lives of so many. What these people at the top, these people stealing from us, have reached enough havoc on our economy, so they have to be booted out one way or the other. So something was just about the way to go. How they went about it is another case for another day. But what has made it so pungent, so biting, so stinging, has to do with the ill-timed floating of the naira. We are essentially a non-productive country. We have to export everything. Our naira is perpetually weak. It's a case of somebody who is going to go for dialysis, for kidney correction. And that person has an underlying health issue of high blood pressure. They can't carry out both at the same time. You have to, first of all, reduce the blood pressure before it can, undergo dialysis. But the government, unfortunately, or ignorantly, or mysteriously now, succumb to both. You can't afford to do both at the same time. These are heavy issues on Nigerians. It is the reason we are suffering untold hardship today. I was on the street today. I'm sure you are possibly listening. I think I told you. Lagos like a ghost town. No, nothing is moving. Energy crisis is looming. And you know that without our energy, our lives are nowhere. When Philip defines it as the capacity to do work, or when he sees it as the strength and vitality that makes something or requires that something should keep moving to remain active. Without energy, we are dead. And unfortunately, this is what we have found ourselves. Again, I maintain, subsidy has to go. The virtue of the PIA being signed into law is just a matter of time. Not even in last year's budget per se. But how they've gone about it, one, and unfortunately or indiscretionally, to have added the floating of the naira has that brought Nigerians to an ease. But I maintain one thing, laws are made for men, not meant for law. If the law suddenly becomes obnoxious, then it's incumbent on the government today to scrap it. If you feel you have this mind to help Nigeria, you have the good intentions, but the intention doesn't have to be horror for Nigerians, then please review it and scrap it. Otherwise, life has become so unbearable. I had it talk in the superlative, but the past 3 months, man, I can't just understand what's going on. Let government review on these policies and please be humane with the way they go about it. I think that's my contribution for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moses. Well, I seem to have so many reactions here, on all, platforms. Let me just take, about 2 or 3, and then I come back to you, Majid Dairo, to just summarize. Akin Ogunlade here via Zoom says, Nigeria's situation is so paradoxical that it struggles to supply petrol to its citizens, despite being a major crude oil producer. It is indeed ironical, and it is often attributed to systemic corruption. Nigeria has historically subsidized petrol, despite being a major crude oil producer. It is indeed ironical, and it's often Nigeria has historically subsidized petrol prices to make fuel affordable for its citizens. However, these subsidies have been riddled with corruption, including fraudulent claims by companies that do not import any fuel, resulting in billions of dollars in losses for the government. Well, there is Dada De Dayo here, who says, good afternoon, Dr. Abati and Mr. Majid, my journalist of the year. NSC, led by Joe Ajero, has failed. From day one, this government removed subsidy. When they increased electricity tariffs to buying of yachts, jets, Escalade SUV, 160 million cars for senators, 21 billion for renovation of VP residence, and the obnoxious policies that have turned the people to beggars and amajiri in the midst of plenty. Now they have been compromised with 70,000 naira. Remember, they all said on his mandate they shall stand. Considering the nightmare Nigerians are facing by this lack of capacity and visionlessness and low-grade mind government that has turned the economy into a disaster. It's a shame. The worst of us is ruling the best of us. Truly, there was a country. Dayo Adedayo from Fagba. I also saw something from Adegboyega Adedeji. Adegboyega, this is Well, I thought I saw Adegboyega Adedeji earlier on saying that I should read his message. Okay, we're looking for his message. But okay, here he is. He says President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is responsible for all that has bedeviled this nation, especially as it concerns NNPC Limited, the scarcity of fuel, the previous and recent hikes in pump price, and the suffering experienced by Nigerians. President Bola Tinubu had the opportunity to terminate the appointment of Mele Kyari and his crew, who have been in NNPCL for more than 10 years without any economic growth or achievement. Instead of terminating or firing these men that have made themselves lord over the running of the NNPCL, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu elongated their tenure, and so on and so forth. Adegboyega Adedeji. But let me come back to you, Majid Dahiru. Adegboyega Adedeji is saying something that a lot of people are saying, that is the individuals in NNPC Limited that are responsible for the problem. But I don't share that view. And I've said so on television more than 3 times, and I've also written about it. But let me come back to you so that we begin to wrap it up.
Okay, thank you very much. We've had a very robust discussion today, and I remain even more convinced today that no economy can develop without energy security, especially the affordability component. And let me restate the fact that subsidy on energy is not a vice, it is a virtue. If you say corruption is associated with it, the government has a responsibility and must hold accountable for its responsibility towards ridding any system of corruption. It's a constitutional matter. We have corruption in every aspect of our national life today, from procurement to general administration, everywhere across all arms and all tiers of government. But the problem is, why is it only the subsidy regime that the government itself has denounced and has taken several attempts to? The only answer to that question is this: subsidy is the only effective payment or government intervention that gets to the people directly. Only subsidy on petrol. And petrol is not just any commodity. People make the mistake to think that petrol is just water to drink. Petrol runs our economy. It runs it. And we are a 30,000 naira minimum wage a month country. Such a country cannot afford a citizen buying petrol at 1,000 naira a liter. It is impracticable. It is unsurvivable. These are the real issues. So how else do you want to solve it other than subsidies if you need it? How do you want to do it? And I'm saying, NNPC should be relieved of the burden of subsidy. It was never their responsibility to do that. Government should go and source money, appropriate money, and subsidize petrol, whether from Dangote, whether from importers, anywhere. It's a responsibility. Nigerians should not allow government to abdicate for that responsibility. It is their responsibility. They must do it, as other countries are doing it. Our president is a regular visitor to France, Dr. Bati. The major energy product that is utilized in France for industries and homes is electricity. The state-owned enterprise that provides the bulk of electricity for consumers in France is the EDF, which is owned by the French state. It subsidizes electricity in amount never disclosed to the public because it's a matter of national security. So from where are we actually getting these economics from? In the year 2023, Germany imposed an 83 billion euro subsidy on electricity so that the economy can compete with that of China in the international market. That was the purpose. Norway has extended electricity subsidy to cover the whole of 2024. So tell me where in the world where any responsible government will allow the price of its commonly and most utilized energy products to be traded publicly along the dictates of market forces. It does not happen anywhere. This is the fundamentally flawed narrative that has guided our political economy for as long as I can remember. And let me end with this. Dr. Ruben, it is time to tell government that government has business doing business. Part of the reason why government is over-dependent on NNPC is because it has no other source of revenue other than the NNPC. Tell government to go and invest in thriving enterprises and run them well like other countries and grow the wealth of our country so that they can provide services, social services to their citizens, including affordable energy. We must begin that call now. The government should go and take its role in the midst of production. My expert talks about telecommunications. And I keep saying this. Telecoms is not the same thing as energy. If you look at the global economic discussion, energy cost is always blamed for economic problems, high cost of living, and inflation. I've not read any article or any literature where cost of communications is blamed for economic problems, because communication has no cost by its own very nature. It is really significant in the cost of production. Energy is the main issue. It is the main issue. It is not like any other commodity. It's not like food. Even food depends on energy security to have food security. Energy is very important. And in this case, petrol, it drives our SME. It drives our economy, the bulk of our economy. Any material increase in price would increase the cost of production, which is inflation. Cost push inflation. The type that politics cannot mitigate. We must have a renewed conversation and tell our leaders that any country whose leader cannot provide affordable petrol for its citizens has no business flying a brand new presidential jet that costs millions of dollars.
Well, thank you very much on that note. And that brings us to the end of today's show on fuel price hikes, the people's agony. Our guest, Majid Dairu, says what we face in Nigeria is a cost of existence crisis, not just cost of living. Well, we've had a very thoughtful discussion on how rising fuel prices are affecting the economy and daily lives, and what steps can be taken by government and also by citizens to build a more sustainable future. Remember, the journey to solving these issues won't be easy, but by staying informed, speaking up, and pushing for change, we all can make a difference. A big thank you to Majid Dairu for sharing his thoughts with us today on the topic. And I also like to thank all the persons who called in and everyone who engaged with us via the social media, Zoom and Facebook. The conversation continues online. You can reach me on my Instagram page at Abati1990. You can also follow the station at City1051 on all social media platforms. For those of you who tuned in late, you can watch the full show on YouTube page City1051. And when you do so, don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments. And don't forget also to join us next week at 12 noon for another exciting edition of City Talks with Ruben Abati. I'm Ruben Abati, and the show was produced by Kasmi Uzuribo, Oluwaseun Adetitun, Oluwatobiloba Samson, and Abiodun Odunton. The executive producer is Adedoja Allen. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again next week. Bye for now.
Most of the contracts in NDDC are given out to members of National Assembly, but you don't know about it. It's okay.
When you need unbiased information, balanced analysis, reviews, and insight on the policies and programs that concern you, listen to City Talks with Ruben Abati. Be a part of it. Call 0700 1051 10.